Okay, so our first study in treatment of a dysfunctional behaviour is the McGrath study, 1990, which looked at the reason we have fears and phobias is because we've learned it from our environment. It has very little to do with your disposition and more to do with what you've experienced in the environment. So taking on the behaviourist view, it looks at a case study analysis of a desensitization session. Now, desensitization is about presenting gradually the thing that the participant fears. So, for example, if it was a spider, it'd be presenting the spider at the other side of the room, and eventually the person would be holding the spider. Okay, so the case study that we're looking at involves a little girl called Lucy, who's 9 years old, and she has a fear of loud noises, which is affecting her childhood. She couldn't go to parties without displaying irrational fears, and it was preventing her from going outdoors, and it was a fear of loud noises rather than a phobia of a particular thing. But it was all things that were associated to parties and game playing in young children that was sort of looked at in this desensitization session. So Lucy, 9 years old, phobia of loud noises. They did psychometric testing on her and ruling out things like depression, personality disorders such as anxiety disorders. But the only significant thing was she was found to have a slightly lower than average IQ, but this wasn't a factor in the desensitization treatment that she was going to receive. So Lucy had 10 sessions in total, in which she was given, in these sessions, imaginary tools. So she had to imagine a thermometer and she had to rate her fear, and this thermometer went up to 10. The larger the number, the more fearful she was of the object and the noise that it could make. She also had an imaginary place where if she got anxious, she had to picture herself being, and this was in her bedroom, on her bed with all her toys, playing with the toys, because that's where she felt most safe. Okay, so the 10 sessions, Lucy was gradually introduced to noises which she'd feared and had prevented or affected her life. Now, the thing with this study is it worked. In this case study analysis of Lucy, one little girl who's 9 years old, it showed a massive reduction in her fear from measurements of party poppers of 7 out of 10, significantly down to 3 out of 10. Cap guns was her most fearful one, which was 8 out of 10, which also saw a significant reduction. So from this one case study analysis, it can be concluded that desensitization, the behaviorist therapy of relearning to not fear loud noises or whichever phobia your problem is, it's about exposing and relearning the impact that this thing can actually have. So party poppers don't have an effect that will change your life. It's a noise and then it goes. So that's our McGrath study, 1990, behaviourist study, desensitization, treatment for an anxiety disorder.